It's the Mixed Martial Arts Hour with
The Mixed Martial Arts Hour back in your life on this Monday, August 8th, 2016. There I am. Hello again, everyone. I'm Ariel Helwani back inside our New York City studio. Great to have you with us. Hope you had a nice weekend. I did. Thank you very much for asking. A relatively quiet weekend in the world of MMA in terms of news. Of course, there was an event in Salt Lake City which featured a pretty solid main event between Yair Rodriguez and Alex Caceres. Rodriguez improving to 5-0 inside the octagon. And if you ask me, they need to keep giving him sort of mid-tier fights, showcase him, but continue to build him up. Let him go 12-0. That should be the thing with this guy. He's a big draw. He has a great future, a ton of potential. Maybe not quite there as far as the contenders are concerned. I know he has a pretty impressive winning streak, but I would build him up rather slowly and keep giving him these kinds of fights. So that happened this weekend in wonderful Salt Lake City. And of note, this coming week, this is a rare UFC bye week. This weekend marks the only weekend in the next 2 months where there will not be any UFC events. Think about that. August 13th is UFC action free. August 20th, it's UFC 202. 27th, it's the Fox show in Vancouver. The 3rd, it's Hamburg. The 10th of September, it's Cleveland. 17th is Hidalgo. 24th is Brasilia. October 1st is Portland. October 8th is Manchester. I'm not even reading this. I did that off the top of my head. Can you believe that? That impressed me. I didn't even plan that. I didn't write that down. There's nothing on my screen right now. Believe me. So it's a rare off week, and I think it's good for the UFC that they did this. I don't know if it was done on purpose, but it gives them now 2 weeks to build up UFC 202. Of course, that is headlined by Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz. They did a conference call on Friday. We will talk about that later on in the show, but it's a good time to really ramp up and focus all of their energy on what is shaping up to be obviously the biggest show of the summer for them, and that is noteworthy and important to bring up because this summer also featured UFC 200. Okay, I love this lineup. I'm so excited for today's show. I can't wait to get into it. Let's run down the lineup and get to our first guest. 4:05, we're going to be joined by Bubba Jenkins of Bellator fame. He returns to action August 26th, Bellator 160. He will be fighting Georgi Karakhanyan once again, looking to avenge that loss. Bubba's got a lot on his chest, has been wanting to come on this show. I'm looking forward to talking to him. 3:05, we will talk to you. Answer your questions. Hit us up, as always, the MMA Hour on Twitter. Leave a question or comment in the comment section below. 2:45, we will talk to Mirko Cro Cop. Mirko Cro Cop, I've been wanting to have him back on the show for quite some time. He will join us at 2:45 to talk about coming out of retirement, fighting for Ryzen in their upcoming open weight Grand Prix, all that stuff and more. 2:25, we'll talk to Benson Henderson. He'll be headlining that show on August 26th at the Pond in Anaheim against Patricio Pitbull. Pitbull moving up to 155. That card, of course, is Bellator 160 as well. Emil Mek of Norway fame will stop by at 2:05 to talk about why his UFC debut on September 3rd has been delayed. 1:45, we're going to talk to Chris Weidman. He's got a lot of interesting things and exciting things going on, and also get an update on his neck. And at 1:25, we'll talk to our good pal Alistair Overeem, who is a little less than a month away from his big UFC heavyweight title fight against Stipe Miocic. But first, let us go to the phone lines and talk to a man that I've been dying to speak to for the last few weeks. The legendary Dan Henderson is on line one. Dan, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Ariel?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for the time today. Wow, so much to talk to you about. And I kind of want to start in chronological order if I can. You fight at 199 in June. What an amazing win. What an amazing moment it was when you defeated and knocked out Hector Lombard. And this is my question right off the bat. In the cage, surrounded by your family, on the mic, a little bit emotional, how much did you believe that was your final fight in the UFC? Was there a great chance in your mind in that moment that could have been your final fight inside the octagon?
Yeah, absolutely. I was. It all depended on what my options were afterwards, as far as employment goes. I was ready to kind of have that one be my last fight, depending on like I said, what options I'd have, and for whatever reason, the stars aligned, and the fans asked for one more fight, I guess.
And that's a beautiful way of putting it. The stars aligned. Would you have been content going out like that? Would that have been good enough for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially being able to go out with a win, not necessarily on top, but with a win is always nice. But to have an opportunity to actually go out on top would be much more desirable, I guess.
And when you say on top, you mean as champion, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
In that moment, right after that fight, as you're talking to the public and everyone's chanting your name, what a beautiful scene it was in Inglewood. Did you have a new contract offer on the table from the UFC?
No, not at all. I hadn't even spoken to them about anything yet. I just kind of wanted to finish my contract up and then, have a talk with Dana about, either representing them in some capacity outside of the cage, and working for the UFC. That was what I was going to kind of speak with them about, not necessarily about fighting again.
Okay, so how long after that win in early June at 199 do you sit down and talk to Dana about your future?
I think it was a couple weeks later. They called me and wanted me to fight Bisping.
So do you not even talk about the role? They call you and say, "Do you want to fight for the belt?"
Yeah, why wouldn't I do that instead?
Of course.
My body's feeling good, but yeah, I'm ready to be done training and everything else, and focus on family and other things a little bit more.
So were you surprised that they came back with this offer?
I don't know if I was surprised, just because I saw, on my social media and all over the place that how many fans wanted that fight, and the UFC does listen to the fans sometimes. And it didn't hurt, like I said, that Michael Bisping wanted the fight also.
I guess the amazing thing is, you've been so honest about this process, even dating back to Tampa Bay when the Machida fight fell out, and said you were kind of getting ready to move on and you were looking for an offer in terms of being some sort of ambassador, etc. And then instead of being offered that, you're offered the ultimate. You're offered a shot to win the UFC belt. That's been the one accomplishment that has eluded your career. So that didn't take you by surprise at all, that you're going into this conversation thinking, okay, what are they going to offer me in terms of a job for the future or whatever? And then they come to you with this great, amazing deal that sort of came out of nowhere. That didn't surprise you?
Not a whole lot, just because I've been watching on my social media and Bisping's asking for that fight. And I guess the first time they said, well, we're considering it, then I was pleasantly surprised. And then the offer came, and I was more than happy to take them up on their offer.
When Bisping won the belt that same night, did you start thinking that as well, even before the public? There's a photo of you at the press conference sort of looking at him from afar as he's getting up. Are you starting to think, wow, this could be my shot at the belt? This could be it. He won. We have this rivalry. We have this history. I knocked him out. Did that come across your mind as well?
No, not at all. I actually found it amusing because right away all my friends were texting me as soon as Bisping won that I should fight him again. I was like, no, that wouldn't happen. I didn't think that was a possibility, and it really didn't enter my mind that I'd have that opportunity. So, and at the press conference, I was just amused at him and Luke going back and forth with each other. So was entertaining.
So when you hear your fellow fighters, fellow middleweights say, how is the 13th ranked guy fighting for the belt, there's a part of you that kind of understands where they're coming from, right?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure, and that's why I kind of made it clear. I never even asked for this fight; it was offered, and of course I'm going to take it. And it was more about what the fans were asking for. So it's like I said, it's something I didn't think was going to happen, and now it's happening, and I'm going to make sure I make the most of it.
So did you sign just a one-fight deal now with UFC? Like, have you signed that new contract?
No, it's there's more than one fight on there, but I'm only planning on fighting the one time.
If you go in there in October, knock them out like you did the first time, you really are going to walk away? You're not going to want to stick around and do a few more as champion?
No, it's, why? It's pretty much the last goal that I had set for myself. And a couple of years ago, as I lost a couple times here and there and wasn't having the best of luck, I kind of figured that I wouldn't have that opportunity again, but I was still satisfied with what I've done with my career and satisfied, with myself with not having that UFC belt, but it is the last one that I don't have.
Have you told the UFC that you will retire if you win the belt on October 8th? Are they aware of that?
Yeah, I've told them, and I don't think Dana quite believes me, but I have no desire to fight again after this one.
Wow, that is amazing. Because like just being around the fight game, it's very rare to see someone go out on top like that. If they win the big one, they're gonna try to squeeze in a few more, make some more money, be the man. It's almost, it's almost. It's the rarest. It's like the unicorn of combat sports to see someone do that. You are the unicorn of combat sports if you pull this off. You don't think that there's going to be something in your body that says, wow, I just did this to the champ. How about I squeeze in a couple more?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I'm sure that I'm definitely going to miss the competition, but you have to understand, I've been competing my whole life, and I've been on top, more than once, and kept fighting. So, like I said, it'll be nice to have this opportunity to finish in that way.
And you mentioned that your body's, obviously a little beat up. You've been doing this for a very long time. Do you feel like you have one more training camp in you? Because as you know, when guys start talking about retirement, they have a foot out the door. Sometimes the motivation isn't there. And I know you don't need motivation to punch Bisping in the face or try to win the belt. But do you think that this is going to be the next 2 months? Is it going to be a bit of a chore? Is it going to be tough for you and just getting your body going?
Well, it's always tough, and I don't know how many years it's gotten tougher, and but it is what it is. I just keep on going, and I'm pretty disciplined when it comes to a lot of things with training, and where I'm lacking, I have somebody to yell at me and get me going. So, I've made sure that I've focused on certain things, but no, this isn't going to be any different than the last training camp. It might be even easier knowing that there's a belt there, and
sure.
and I get to attempt to shut Bisping's mouth up again.
And did you even look around or have a cup of coffee with any other promotions out there, test the waters, so to speak, once you finish that last fight in June?
No, but they pretty much have all made it clear that they want to have that conversation with me. But, it was, those conversations never happened, so I wasn't overly concerned about it.
Right.
Like I said, I was more concerned about trying to represent the UFC outside of the octagon.
If you win the belt on October 8th and walk away, do you think that job, that particular role will be waiting for you? Do you think that ups your chances of getting it? Have you even discussed that with them while, discussing this new fight?
No, I think I didn't get any type of commitment out of them for that, but it's been discussed. So we'll see what happens. I don't think I'm concerned about it, but I would think that they would like to keep me around.
Yeah, I would think, especially if you're the champion and go out on top. And just to be clear, if you weren't offered the Bisping fight, if you were offered like a Weidman or a Romero, a Rockhold, I know you're friends, that probably doesn't happen, but is the Bisping fight the only fight that made you want to come back? Any other fight, non-title fight, you're probably not fighting anymore?
Well, with the exception of, if I didn't get offered a job to not fight, then I probably would have, entertained the idea of fighting a couple more times. But yeah, I'm pretty much, like I said, done and ready to be done mentally. And physically, like I said, I think my body could handle another few years, but I'm ready to kind of move on. But don't get me wrong, that I'm going to be extremely motivated to make sure that I do well in this fight.
Do you have any idea why they have yet to officially announce the fight or the card, the UFC that is?
No, I have no idea. They haven't even given me an exact date or place. I'm guessing it's just them trying to figure out the logistics of the arena or wherever they're going to have the fight. I think that must be the holdup. Because usually if they know that they have an arena or something locked down and a date, they'll announce things right away. And especially as much as this has been talked about, and then Bisping kind of announced it on his own, but I still haven't been told that it's confirmed for Manchester. So
have you signed a contract for it?
Yes, there's been a bout agreement that I signed.
So as you mentioned, Michael Bisping hosts a radio show on Sirius XM. It's called The Countdown. And on Thursday, he announced the fight himself. He said that it is happening in Manchester, October 8th. Other outlets, including this one, reported that the main event will happen at around like 4 or 5 a.m. to accommodate the North American pay-per-view times. How do you feel about that, fighting locally at around 4 or 5 a.m.?
Yeah, it's not the best scenario, but I've done it before a couple times. I'm not sure about quite at 4 a.m., but pretty early in the morning, 2 and 3 in the morning. But I just when I get somewhere like that, I just pretty much try and stay on my same time zone, California time that I came from, and the fights are always aired at the same time here, so I might as well just try and stay on that time zone for at least the time that I'm there before the fight. Right.
I wonder if the media obligations will mess that up, but that certainly seems like right.
Usually that's the only tough part is having media obligations earlier in the morning where I'm not, where I'm trying to sleep.
So Bisping said this about you, and I just want to get your reaction. This is a quick clip from that announcement of his on his own radio show on Thursday. If you don't mind, I'll play you the 20-second clip, and then just want to get your response, okay?
Lightning does not strike twice, okay? It struck once in the first time. It will not strike twice. There will be no TRT, no drugs, no steroids, no performance-enhancing drugs. Dan Henderson, I challenge you to announce to me at the press conference that you will not take any performance-enhancing drugs, that if you saw to show up on any day, any time, they can test you, because I think he's going to cheat. I think he's going to go out there and have some sneaky PEDs, because he's going to think, well, screw it. If I get suspended, so what? I'm retiring anyway.
So that was courtesy of The Countdown on Sirius XM. Michael Bisping talking about you, Dan Henderson. What's your response to those comments?
It just makes me chuckle.
Was that you laughing or laughing or the host? I couldn't tell.
That was me.
Okay.
It's something, and that I've been asking for this type of testing for I don't know how many years now, and they finally did it, and yeah, I've never tested positive for anything, and you know, yes, I was taking TRT for a while, but before I even did that, I made sure the athletic commission approved it. Before, and even then, it was a tough consideration for me, and I just took the advice of my doctor saying, you know, it would be good for me to get on it. And listen, I didn't have a problem getting off of it and moved on just the same because I was barely taking any. I wasn't abusing anything like some of these other guys that, you know, have noticeable differences in their body. Mm-hmm. You know, I look the same now as when I did when I was on it. You know, I wasn't taking very much, and it was just enough to stay within normal limits. So, you know, and I have no problem doing any type of drug testing. Never have, and I'm the only one that's been asking for it for that kind of testing. You know, I didn't see him asking for that.
Does it piss you off at all when he says these things? Like you're trying to avoid it?
No, it amuses me and it makes him look ignorant.
What do you think the reception will be like over there in Manchester if it is in Manchester?
You know, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I have a few fans from the UK that'll be there. Yeah, I don't know how many times I've heard from people that say, you know, I'm from England and I'm so glad you knocked him out. I don't like him. He's arrogant. He's this, he's that. And so I'm thinking I might have a few fans over there. I'm sure he will have the majority of them, but, yeah, I'm not real worried about it. Yeah, I just need to make sure I get the job done inside the cage and not worry about what's going on outside.
I know you're looking forward to the fight, but are you a little bit dreading the 2-month process of having to go back and forth with him, doing the press conference, all that stuff? You went through this on The Ultimate Fighter, UFC 100, 7 years ago now. Like, is that the worst part of this scenario for you?
No, it is what it is. It doesn't bother me at all. It's, you know, like I said, it'll make me chuckle a few extra times, and that's about it. You know,
yeah.
I don't feed into that very much, and it doesn't irritate me or piss me off at all. I just kind of get amused. I know what the truth is, in myself, and you know, and that's pretty much all that matters. I don't really care what Michael thinks.
Are you shocked? Honestly, is it like a little bit surreal that Michael Bisping is the UFC champion in 2016? Does this not compute for you?
Yeah, I definitely was shocked that he won the belt and knocked out, you know, Luke Rockhold. It was, I think the whole world was kind of shocked. You know, I was surprised that because Michael Bisping is not known for knocking people out. He's known for, you know, a lot of TKOs, just wearing people out and picking them apart. And, you know, so I was surprised that he won in the way that he did.
Yeah. He seems to take exception with the logo, your logo of the flying, you know, the flying punch when he was out, which was taken from that famous scene. What is your response to that?
I don't know if he's more offended that he's not in the logo or what. I don't know. You know, like I said, he's not even in there, so why would he get offended?
Okay. I think he seems to be upset that you're...
I can add him back in there.
Was he ever in there? In the early version?
No, not at all. I mean, I can add a little chalk line version of him.
Okay. 2 last quick things. What is your message to the other middleweights in, you know, your division, the contenders, who have been complaining about you getting this title shot? Is there anything that you would say to them?
I don't know. I mean, it's really nothing I can say. It is what it is, and you know, they can complain to the fans. I didn't ask for this fight. Obviously, when offered, I will absolutely take it.
Sure. Especially
knowing it's my last fight, and you know, and being that it's my last fight, really it doesn't disrupt anything in the whole scheme of things. With, you know, win or lose, they can still have Bisping back when I'm done with them.
And finally, since that was such a you know, it was such a memorable finish on such a big stage. Is there any pressure to top that, to replicate it, to do something even more spectacular than, you know, the first time that you guys met 7 years ago?
No, I mean, there's absolutely nothing I can do to make that a better finish than it was the first time. Yeah, I've known that for years. I mean, there's no way I can do it better than I did the first time. You know, at this point, I'd be happy with any type of win. Not saying I'm not going to be trying to do it again, but you know, that was hard to beat, and that's going to be there forever. I mean, there's nothing that, win or lose, that Michael can do to change the fact that that'll be one of the best knockouts ever.
Sorry, one last quick one. Do you think he is better from the time you guys fought 7 years ago? Would you say he has improved a lot since then as a fighter?
Yeah, I think we all have, you know, the guys that are serious about it, and Michael definitely puts in the time in the gym, and you can tell that by his improvements and his conditioning. You know, he's always in shape and ready to go, and he goes out there and fights, and he does a good job doing it, and he's definitely improved.
Okay, fair enough. Appreciate the time, Dan. Thank you so much. Congrats on getting the fight and sticking around for one more, and good luck leading up to it in training camp, and of course on October 8th. Thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks, Ariel.
All right, there he is, Dan Henderson. What a story this is. I mean, how unique is this story? He is open. That's one thing I've always loved about Dan. As honest as they come when it comes to the state of his career. He was honest when talking about, you know, the contract negotiations. He was honest when talking about Lyoto Machida back in April. And honest now, saying, if I win on October 8th, and yes, they have yet to officially announce it, but if I win, I'm going to walk away. What a unique scenario. And it tells you, and by the way, just to dispel one story out there, I mean, he said it himself, he did not ask for it, and I believe that. From all the conversations that I've had, Bisping never asked for it as well. It's really a UFC idea, and you can understand why it's a money-making idea, and we've talked ad nauseum about what it means for the belt and what it means for the other contenders. But this was really an idea that the UFC came up with and said, okay, let's capitalize on this. Let's capitalize on Michael Bisping, UFC champion. So this idea, and I've asked him it point blank, like, you know, why are you picking a fight as champion with the 13th ranked guy? I know you have that history. I know you have that beef. I know it's very real. I know you've wanted the fight, but is this the right time? And I've been told from Bisping and his people that, look, this isn't something that we campaigned for or asked for. Of course, they're not going to turn it down. This is what they want. They're going to take it. But this really was presented to them. This was brought to their attention. And I think that's very important to note. So hopefully that gets officially announced sooner rather than later. October 8th. Manchester. The interesting thing is, what kind of a turnout will they have? Because they are, you know, they are going to sell a lot of tickets in that arena. Important to note that Michael Bisping is from Manchester, so you know that he is going to sell a lot of tickets. You know that he is going to be a draw. You know a lot of people are going to be interested in seeing him defend the title for the very first time. But are they going to want to stay up till 4 or 5 a.m. to watch the fight live? Forget about on television. I'm talking about in person. Because if the main event is supposed to go down at around 4 or 5 a.m., that means that the main the actual card itself is going to start at around like 11, something like that, if my math is correct. I mean, forget about the little kids. How are the grown men going to stay up? I suspect that they'll figure out a way. I was in Sweden, in Stockholm, for that UFC on Fox event headlined by Alexander Gustafsson versus Anthony Johnson, and it wasn't quite 4 a.m. It was around 2 or 3. if memory serves me correct, that the fight actually happened. And it was pretty packed. It wasn't quite a sellout, but there was around 30,000 people there. And the worst part about that one was it ended on such a sour note with Gustafsson getting knocked out brutally by Anthony Johnson. Everyone left in a very depressed state. It was kind of weird. It would have been better had he won 3, 4 a.m. Everyone goes home happy. Now they feel like crap that they stayed up so late and they just saw their hero get KO'd. That card is shaping up to be a pretty good one. We reported last week, 2 weeks ago, we reported Gegard Mousasi versus Vitor Belfort. Last week, we reported Jimmy Manuwa versus Ovin St. Preux. Ruslan, Magomedov versus Stefan Struve. I think that there are some others as well. But what an interesting scenario. If Henderson retires after winning the belt, now we have a situation where the belt is vacated. And, maybe that impacts the MSG show. If you've got Chris Weidman fighting on that show, potentially against a Luke Rockhold, if you've got Yoel Romero fighting on that show, and they do some sort of tournament to crown a new champion or a number one contender. Imagine if Dan Henderson wins the belt. Imagine if Dan Henderson wins the belt, vacates the title, and then they make, I don't know, Rockhold versus Weidman at MSG for the new championship. The new champion. That now becomes for the belt. Could you imagine something that would be kind of, I guess that would add to the allure of that card, but a very unique situation because most guys aren't that honest about the state of their career and saying that, hey, I'm going to walk away upon winning the belt, thus vacating the title and leaving this mess of a situation. It's not the worst, but certainly very unique. Makes for a great story. Definitely makes for a great story saying, hey, I'm going to walk away. Win or lose. That is going to be a big part of this promotion. That's going to be a big part of, the countdown show, everything. All the interviews are going to be talking about this. I can't even recall someone fighting for the belt in MMA, in the UFC, to be exact, and saying, win or lose, I'm walking away. How freaking unique is that?